We are raised on a single binary promise. Get the degree, find the corporate job, and you've reached the finish line. In this mindset, a recurring salary is the ultimate shield against the chaos of the world. Rahul is 32. At 6:45 a.m., his day begins not with purpose, but with a reflex. He reaches for his phone before he's even fully awake, checking the one number that dictates his mood. 18,420 rupees. He stares at the screen for 3 seconds, feels a small, sharp pulse of relief, and thinks the same 4 words every middle-class professional thinks. Payday is almost here. This brief moment of comfort is actually a design feature of his lifestyle. It's the recurring mechanism that ensures he'll show up to his desk on Monday, regardless of how burnt out he feels. He followed the blueprint perfectly. He earned the grades, survived the entrance exams, and traded his youth for a corporate title. He did exactly what he was told would make him set for life. When his starting salary was 35,000 rupees, his parents saw it as a triumph. Now, at 60,000, they see security. But Rahul only feels the weight of a life that is functional on paper, but suffocating in practice. He has achieved the middle-class dream, only to realize it's a closed loop. He hasn't reached a finish line, he's just stepped onto a treadmill that is slowly increasing in speed. Rahul's father spent 30 years as a clerk, living by a single rule. The middle is the only safe place to be. Risk was for people who could afford to lose, and in their house, they couldn't afford to lose anything. This fear of losing what you have makes you the perfect customer for debt disguised as progress. The moment that first salary hit his account, the easy monthly installment became his primary way of interacting with the world. He bought a phone he couldn't pay for up front, then a bike. To Rahul, these weren't debts, they were upgrades. He confused the ability to make a monthly payment with the ability to actually afford a lifestyle. Look at his reality. On the first, his bar is full, 60,000 rupees. But rent, utilities, and EMIs take their share immediately. He works for the bank before himself. Soon, he has 2,000 left. That tiny margin is his only emergency defense. The middle-class lifestyle is often just a high-speed chase, where the expenses are always one step behind the paycheck. Rahul assumed this was just a junior-level problem. He looked at Amit, a senior manager earning 1.2 lakh a month, and saw the version of himself he was supposed to become. But then he saw Amit in the break room, hunched over his phone, his voice cracking as he asked for a grace period on a payment. The success Rahul was chasing looked terrified. Amit wasn't suffering from a lack of income. He was suffering from 17 more years of a massive home loan. He had more money, that he had even less freedom. Rahul realized that a higher salary doesn't solve a structural problem. If you use every raise to buy a bigger cage, you're still a prisoner. You just have nicer furniture. That night, Rahul sat with an Excel sheet and projected his life 10 years into the future. He looked at the numbers and saw a terrifyingly straight line. Even with promotions, the math didn't change. As his income grew, his required lifestyle would grow to meet it. He would be 45, making more money than ever, and still be one missed paycheck away from disaster. The corporate path doesn't lead to a finish line. It leads to a more expensive version of the same struggle you're having today. The next morning, Rahul finds himself in an elevator next to a man who seems to exist in a different reality. While Rahul is bracing for another 10-hour shift, this man looks like he has all the time in the world. The stranger's phone pings. A notification shows 2,47,000 rupees credited to his account. It's more than Rahul makes in 4 months. When Rahul asks what kind of company pays that well, the man gives him a confusing answer. "I don't have a boss, and that wasn't a salary." He explains that he stopped trading his hours for survival years ago. He realized that as long as your income is tied to your physical presence, you will never be free. Rahul goes home and stops searching for better jobs. He starts looking for the logic of how money actually moves when a person isn't standing there to catch it. He discovers the difference between what he owns and what owns him. He had spent a decade collecting liabilities, things that cost him money to maintain. The wealthy focus on a different category, assets. These are systems or tools that generate cash flow whether you are at a desk or asleep. Stability isn't found in a monthly deposit from an employer. It's found in owning the things that produce value. To exit the trap, Rahul has to stop trying to earn.
We all probably know someone like Rahul. I mean, on the surface, this guy has it all figured out. He's 32, got the stable job, the respectable life, the one everybody told him would make him happy. But just underneath that perfect picture, something is seriously wrong. So picture this. Every single morning, the very first thing Rahul does is pull out his phone and open his banking app. And this is the number he sees, 18,420. Now, that's not just a bank balance. That's his reality. That number dictates every single decision, every hope, and every fear he's going to have for the rest of the month. And that one little thought, salary's coming soon, that's the only thing that lets him breathe a little easier, just for a second. It's this tiny hit of relief, right before the whole cycle of stress and anxiety starts all over again. He doesn't know it yet, but he's on a treadmill that's just getting faster. Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of Rahul's problem, the illusion of stability. Let's really dig into the programming that's running his life and see why this safe path he was sold might actually be the most dangerous trap of all. Think about it, this one line. He's been hearing it from his parents, his relatives, everyone since he was a kid. It became his entire operating system. It wasn't just advice, it was like the law. And you don't question the law, right? Why would you, when everyone you trust agrees it's the absolute truth? And check this out. This slide just lays out the entire playbook he was given. Step 1, school teaches you how to follow the rules. Step 2, college gets you the perfect degree to fit into a neat little box in the system. Step 3, the job. That's supposed to be the prize, right? But then, bam, the final step, EMIs. So the life you were promised, yet you're paying for it on an installment plan from day one. And this is where the math just hits you right in the face. A 60,000 rupee salary sounds pretty decent, doesn't it? But then you start chipping away at it. There goes the phone payment, then the bike payment, then rent and all the bills, and what's left at the end of the month? 2,000 rupees. He is running as fast as he can just to stay in the exact same place. This was the moment the whole house of cards started to wobble. See, he always looked at his senior manager and thought, that's the goal, that's what success looks like. But then one day he found out the truth. His manager, making double what he did, still had 17 years left on his home loan. 17 years. That wasn't a finish line. It was just a bigger, fancier cage. So what happens when a crack like that appears in your world? Well, let's get into a chance encounter in an elevator that's about to completely shatter everything Rahul thought he knew about how money actually works. So there he is, just standing in the office lift, minding his own business. A quiet, unassuming guy gets in with him. And Rahul just happens to glance over at the man's phone right as this notification flashes on the screen. 247,000 rupees credited, just like that. That's over 4 times his monthly salary. His heart just starts pounding. He can't stop himself. He just has to ask if it's a salary. The man kind of smiles and says no. He says it's an income that doesn't come from a job. And that single sentence it doesn't compute. It's like someone told him the sky wasn't blue. It just breaks his entire understanding of the world. And that question, it becomes an obsession. It keeps him up all night, sending him down this massive internet rabbit hole. He starts to realize there's this entire financial universe, a whole different set of rules for making money that nobody, and I mean nobody, ever taught him. And eventually, all that searching leads him to one single powerful word: assets. It's such a simple idea, but for him, it's completely revolutionary. The idea that you can own things that generate income for you, that your money can be out there working for you instead of you always having to work for it. So Rahul is armed with this explosive new knowledge. He's ready to change his whole life. He makes his first move, but he's about to learn that the hardest lesson here has absolutely nothing to do with finance. He's all fired up, right? He secretly invests 5,000 rupees into the stock market. And he is glued to his phone, checking it every 10 minutes, just riding this absolute roller coaster of anxiety. And then, just 4 days later, the market dips. His investment is down. And panic, it just sets in immediately. So what does he do? He sells everything, takes the loss. And just like that, the experiment is over. That fear of losing is so powerful, it just instantly brings back all his old programming. That familiar voice in his head is screaming, see? This isn't for people like us. Just stick to the safe path. He ends up running into the man from the elevator again and tells him what happened. And the man points out this incredible hypocrisy. He says, look, We are willing to dedicate over 20 years of our lives, school, college, work, for a stable job. But we give a completely new way of thinking, 4 days? And then we just throw our hands up and say, it doesn't work. And then he delivers the knockout punch, the one idea that changes everything for Rahul. He says the biggest reason people fail isn't because they don't have enough money, it's because they don't have enough patience. The failure is psychological, not financial. And this brings us to the ultimate test. With this brand new mindset, Rahul decides to try again. But just as he starts to build a little momentum, the old world comes knocking with an offer that is almost impossible to refuse. This time, he doesn't gamble. He starts a small freelancing side hustle, and the progress is painfully slow. The first month, he makes nothing, zero, but then he makes a little, and then a little more. It's not a lot of money, but it is real. And this is the key. This small amount of money, it feels completely different. It wasn't given to him by a boss. He generated it himself. So it's not just income, it's proof that another way is actually possible. But the system, it doesn't let you go that easily. One day, his boss calls him in and offers him a promotion, a big one. His salary is about to jump from 60,000 to 85,000 rupees. Everyone in the office is clapping. On the outside, he's smiling, but on the inside, a war has just started. And this slide just lays out the two choices staring him right in the face. There's the safe path, take the promotion, get a higher salary, which leads to more EMIs and predictable comfort. They're basically golden handcuffs, right? Or there's the risky path, slow growth, a ton of uncertainty, a lot of hard work, but it holds the possibility of real freedom. And this is where we leave Rahul, right at his final crossroads. His story really just forces us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves the exact same question. When you're faced with that choice between a more comfortable cage and the terrifying, uncertain road to freedom, which life are you choosing?
At 6:45 a.m., before the sun is even up, Rahul checks his balance. He isn't looking for wealth, just the reassurance of a scheduled direct deposit. 18,420 rupees. That's what's left. Seeing that number allows him to breathe for a moment, because he knows the next paycheck will arrive just in time to cover the bills. Rahul is living the standard life plan. He got the degree and the stable office job. He rewarded himself with a new smartphone and a bike, both funded through monthly installments. To his neighbors, this looks like a successful young professional moving up in the world. In reality, every upgrade adds a new link to a chain. These monthly payments create a dependency on a single employer that grows heavier with every purchase. He isn't working to build a future. He is working to service his past decisions. One afternoon, Rahul watches his senior manager, Amit, take a private call in the break room. Amit is 45, earns a massive salary, and is considered the success story of the office. But his voice is cracking as he asks a bank representative for a payment deferral. Despite his high rank, Amit faces a 17-year home loan. As his salary increases, his debt expands to meet it. Mapping Rahul's 60,000 rupee salary shows the identical ratio. Climbing the corporate ladder doesn't change the trap's geometry, it just increases the stakes. If Rahul stays on this path for another decade, he won't be free. He'll just be a higher-paid version of Amit, terrified of losing a job he doesn't even like because he's 20 years deep into a mortgage. This is the moment the safe path starts to look dangerous. Success in this game doesn't mean winning. It just means being allowed to keep playing a game where you never actually own your time. While riding the elevator, Rahul spots a man in simple, casual clothes. His phone pings with a notification. 2,47,000 rupees credited to his account. Rahul can't help himself. He asks if that's a monthly bonus. The man explains that he doesn't have a boss or a salary. He spent the last 3 years building digital assets that now generate cash flow regardless of whether he's working or standing in an elevator. Rahul spends the night researching. He finds a world where people don't trade hours for a paycheck. They use their time to build systems that eventually operate independently of them. This is the mechanical difference. In System A, your income is tied to your physical presence. In System B, you put in the effort once to create an asset, like an investment or a product, and that asset continues to provide returns. If this method of generating wealth is accessible to anyone with an internet connection, why is the majority of the population still competing for a limited number of office chairs? Rahul decides to try. He takes 5,000 rupees, a significant amount given his bank balance, and puts it into the stock market. It's his first step toward building an asset. Within 48 hours, he is checking the app every 10 minutes. A 200 rupee dip feels like a personal failure. His brain, conditioned for years by this steady, flat line of a monthly salary, cannot process the volatility. On the fourth day, the market corrects. He watches 1,200 rupees vanish in a few hours. The psychological pain is immediate. He sells everything at a loss. He convinces himself that his parents were right, that people like us aren't meant for this. He retreats to the comfort of his cubicle, relieved to be back in the world of guaranteed numbers. Later, the man from the elevator offers a perspective that hurts more than the financial loss. He points out that Rahul was willing to give 20 years of his life to a company for a guaranteed salary, but he gave up on his own independence after only 4 days of fluctuation. This graph shows the divide. The horizontal line is the comfort of a salary. The jagged curve represents the reality of building an asset. Most people see that initial drop and assume they are failing. This is the patience gap. It's the period where you are putting in the work, but the market or the system is testing your resolve. This is where most people quit and return to the safety of the flat line. The barrier to entry for wealth isn't a lack of capital. It's a low threshold for psychological discomfort. People stay in the middle class because they prefer the certainty of a slow decline over the uncertainty of a potential breakthrough. Rahul is called into the main office. His boss offers him a promotion and raise. His colleagues are already clapping, expecting him to celebrate. Rahul looks at the offer, but he doesn't see a raise. He sees Amit's shaking hands. He realizes that accepting this means committing to another 5 years of the same routine, just to pay for a slightly better car or a larger apartment. He declines the promotion and resigns. It isn't a moment of sudden bravery. It's a calculated rejection of a future he knows he can't survive. He uses his remaining savings to buy 6 months of time to build a freelance business. Escaping the cycle requires making a choice that looks like madness to everyone else, choosing the possibility of failure over the guarantee of mediocrity. The first 3 months are a struggle. Income is erratic, and he has to cut his expenses to the bone. Every day he feels the urge to go back to a steady job just to stop the anxiety of a fluctuating bank balance. Then he lands a single international project. In 3 days of focused work, he earns 25,000 rupees, the exact amount of the monthly raise he walked away from. This is the moment the math of his life changes. He just generated a month's worth of office value in 72 hours. He has finally decoupled his income from a fixed schedule. Over the next 6 months, he scales his work. His monthly income reaches 2 lakh rupees. He pays off his debts and builds a surplus. He no longer wakes up checking his phone for a bank notification because he owns the system that generates the numbers. Once you move from a salary to an asset-based income, you remove the ceiling. You transition from linear growth, where you earn more by working more, to exponential growth, where your systems do the heavy lifting. Rahul visits his family, but the conversation is strained. His father tells him his new lifestyle is risky and he should look for something permanent. To his father, a job you can't quit is the only definition of security. Millions of people are still in the office at 7 p.m., not because they are productive, but because they are afraid. They follow the rules of a game that was designed to keep them stationary. The middle-class trap is maintained by believing a steady paycheck is the only way to survive. Breaking the chain starts with realizing that the safe path is actually a slow-motion surrender of your own personal freedom.